Epinephrine, which is also adrenaline, those are the same thing, is literally manufactured from the molecule dopamine. If you look at the biochemical cascade, it is dopamine is converted into adrenaline, which is the basis of all energy, all neural energy. And so, including thinking. And so if one is not in a place of being able to set their goal on a particular lofty goal, a graduate degree, a book, etc., yet, the way one gets to that is by completing things in their immediate environment from start to finish and closing the dopaminergic loop.
Those are at least micro narratives. He's a neuroscientist and tenured associate professor in the Department of Neurobiology at the Stanford University School of Medicine. Dr. Huberman and his lab have made contributions to the brain development, brain plasticity, and neural regeneration and repair fields. His work and his lab's work focuses on the visual system, elucidating the nature of neural mechanisms controlling light-mediated activation of the circadian and autonomic arousal centers in the brain and mediating conscious vision or sight. His lab investigates how the brain works, how it changes through experience. It's a field known as plasticity, and how it repairs itself. He and his colleagues have worked to discover strategies for halting and reversing vision loss in blinding diseases and understanding how visual perceptions and autonomic arousal states are integrated to impact behavioral responses. His lab employs a large range of state-of-the-art investigative tools: virtual reality, gene therapy, anatomy, electrophysiology, and imaging and behavioral analysis. In January 2021, Dr. Huberman launched the Huberman Lab podcast, concentrating on neuroscience and other scientific topics. It's done phenomenally well for a detailed scientific podcast, attracting 1.5 million subscribers. It's very good to see you today, Dr. Huberman, and thank you for agreeing to talk with me.
Oh, delighted to be here. Your first book, 12 Rules for Life, sits prominently on our bookshelf in our living room, and we've all read it and learned a tremendous amount from you over the years, and certainly feel a kinship because of the shared relationship between university professorship and public education as well.
Right. Yeah, well, we've got lots in common. I'm particularly interested in the neurological work that you've done on both anxiety and exploration, although there's plenty of topics to talk about today and plenty of overlapping interests. But it's been a while since I've reviewed the neuroscience literature pertaining to both anxiety and exploration. And so maybe we could start by you laying out what you've discovered and how you're thinking about what you think anxiety signifies, how it's related to exploratory behavior, which I think you described as something approximating courageous approach, although you were talking about mice in that particular paper, and what you're thinking about with regards to the neural basis of these different behavioral responses, behavioral and emotional responses.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I should mention that these days my laboratory mainly focuses on humans. We still do some mouse work, but we in partnership with people in psychiatry, we're doing essentially equivalent experiments in humans. So I'd be happy to elaborate there. You know, many people perhaps, but not everyone, have heard of the autonomic nervous system, which simply means automatic. It's a bit of a misnomer because without going too much into the history of that, if you look back to the origins of medicine in the time of Galen and so forth, when they were first, dissecting cadavers and whatnot, there was this idea of a nervous system, or a portion of the nervous system eventually came to be, that could control so-called vegetative functions, meaning the rate of digestion and the really what neuroscientists typically think of as boring stuff. But it's anything but boring. It's the stuff that keeps you from urinating while you're asleep, unless you're a very young child, right? And it's the stuff that keeps your digestion going as you command your attention to other things. The autonomic nervous...
Right. It's all the things that are too complex for us to think through.
That's right. And they are, as you point out, immensely complex. And, nowadays with all this interest in the gut microbiome and things of that sort, I mean, these are tremendously complicated operations that are happening generally below our conscious awareness, and that are indeed vegetative. They can be controlled by emotion. We were all familiar with the